National Fisherman and Pacific Marine Expo are proud supporters of the Galley Stories podcast, as we make similar efforts to highlight the people and topics that define commercial fishing. You can see what that looks like in print and online all year long, as well as every November in Seattle, when this community comes together at PME. Check out nationalfisherman.com and pacificmarineexpo.com to learn more.
Hey guys, here's a good one for you. Megan Waldrep from the Partners of Commercial Fishing podcast. Met her a while back at Expo, a couple years ago, I believe now. But she's got a podcast showing the other side of this story, guys. Other side of what we do, which is capturing mariners' commercial fishing stories. Hers is centered on the other side of that, being the spouse, the husband or the wife that stays home. Very unique view, the other side of what we do. Totally supportive of Megan and her project and her avenue that she's going down, and hope that you guys would be too. So check her out. Listen to this. You'll hear some of both of our sides here, and enjoy. This episode brought to you by Extra Tough and Alaskan Brewing.
Mark, you are like a celebrity to me, so I really do appreciate you chatting it up with me today. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, come on, Megan.
If anybody knows, I'm sure everybody knows Mark, but the Galley Stories podcast is a foundation of the fishing stories from so many 110 episodes they have as of the time of this recording. And I first met Mark at the Pacific Marine Expo at your booth. You couldn't have been more welcoming and kinder to me and more encouraging for the Partners of Commercial Fishermen podcast. And I truly appreciate you. And the reason I have a microphone is because you encouraged me to get a microphone. So you're part of the evolution of the Partners of Commercial Fishermen podcast. And yeah.
Your microphone sounds great.
Oh, thanks.
You look wonderful.
Thank you.
It was my pleasure to meet you, but more importantly, listening to your podcast, it's a great podcast.
Oh, thank you.
You've got a lot going on there. It's like two sides. So Galley Stories, I focus on the maritime industry and those that make their living on the water, their experiences, their day-to-day lives, and you're on the opposite spectrum of that. You're recording the other side of it, and it's funny because I just got an email a couple days ago. I can look up her name. I think it's Kate. I can't remember her last name. It's hard to say, and I don't want to insult her by trying to say it. But she was interested in a day-to-day life story, which I can help her with, but she's also interested in hearing about the other side. And in all of my episodes, I think that I've only had one true recording of the other side, because the partner, as you point out, and as you continually discuss on your podcast, is the other side of that equation. And both are working. Both are, one's got the household maybe, or even a full-time job holding that down. Both have the stresses of being apart. Loving your podcast. Loving your podcast, Megan.
That means so much coming from you. Thank you. And also means so much of you recognizing the efforts of the Partners of Fishermen everywhere. I mean, you're right. It is a team effort. And when I first started dating my fisherman, I really had no idea what the hell I was getting into and didn't know what that meant to date somebody like him. And in the beginning, it was funny because I'd hear him talk to his peers about fishing, and I just thought it was so neat hearing these stories. And then it became a point of, I started to feel maybe a little intimidated about that connection because I didn't really understand the language that they were speaking. And then it also evolved into a point of, all right, are we done talking about boat engines now? Because I'm done talking about this. But it's so interesting to learn that industry that I felt incredibly intimidated by and didn't know where I fit in and didn't know if there was anybody like me that felt this way, because I also felt guilty in a sense to say, oh, well, I don't totally embrace this all the time. This isn't this romantic idea that I initially had. And so I went on Google to look up how to I typed in how to date a commercial fisherman, because I had no idea. And I figured there had to be resources out there like there are for military spouses, because that is such a close comparison to me. I'm a
very, very similar, extremely similar.
Yes, exactly. I love that you see that. I'm a military brat. And so I was like, well, there has to be resources out there. So I type in how to date a commercial fisherman, and there was absolutely nothing online about the lifestyle, which really blew my mind. I mean, there were a couple blog posts about dating a sports fisherman, and it was mainly like, their lures are on the table. And like, it's just like, no, we're dealing with a lot more than just lures on the table. I'm worried about if he's going to die out there. I'm wondering about who am I going to talk to, or who can I relate to when he's gone for months at a time? And so, a former journalist, I decided to write a piece called 9 Things to Know About Dating a Commercial Fisherman. I just threw it out there, and it was explaining exactly what I just shared, how amazing it is at first, and the camaraderie, and how it can be intimidating. And then also how you could be kind of bored by these conversations, but then have this incredible, unique relationship with the ocean that you're excited to share with your family and friends. And it was just a sweet little story that I just wanted to have out on the internet. Didn't think anything of it. My blog was a place for me to have stories that I previously published so I could get future writing gigs. That's why I had the blog. But this one blog I posted, never thought of it again until people started writing to me from all over the world, honestly, from all over the US, from Canada, the UK, Australia, saying that they understood. And I thought, oh my God, I feel less alone. And this makes me feel so good to know that there's not only a community of women out there, but we need to talk about this more. And so writing more about the lifestyle, interviewing women about their experience as being a partner, and showing other women on the blog, hey, there's other women like us. This is what their experience is like, has been great. And so my long story to this short point is the intimidation turned into, do I belong here as a partner? Into the understanding of, aside from the fishermen, no one belongs here more than the partners of commercial fishermen. We are essential to the success of the industry in every way, shape, or form. And that's what I hope to share with the people that are in my community, and reflect that value back to them constantly, because they are just so much more than they could ever realize.
I want to go back to a point you made here a minute ago, Megan, that when you first got with your partner, you felt intimidated, but yet you had some jealousy of that connection. Well, let me tell you, that connection is what saves their lives at sea. You need to encourage them to be close to their shipmates. Having that on land equates to having them on the ocean. Things happen out there, and often you're in a group of 5 or 6 guys, and there's only 5 or 6 of you that are going to take care of whatever that problem that's coming up may be. And you hope that they think of them as a brother. You hope that they think of them as a family member. And often I bet you can name one person, a partner that your partner fishes with, that would do anything for you. There's one of them there that you could call right now, and he's going to come over to your house and help with your partner being gone. Someone in that relationship is there for you because it's a family. It's not just a quick, a gig to make some money. When you spend time on the boats, you build these. You've mentioned it before. It's like being in the military. You get a small battalion, small group, small squad of men, or women, excuse me, and they form a friendship and bond that goes forever. I'm still connected with one of my very first friends from 1992, the first time we ever served on a boat together. And you have that connection throughout your life. It's like building a friendship and a camaraderie. So jealousy is a great word, but encourage it, because they're the ones that's going to be with your spouse or your partner during anything that's going wrong.
That's a great point. That is a good point. Also, I don't feel like I used the word jealous. I did use the word intimidation, but when it comes to the commercial fishermen discussing, but I can tell you where jealousy does and has come in was when my partner decided to hire a female deckhand. And that was a huge mind F for me. Okay. And so when you talk about that word jealousy, intimidation, they're close, but they're definitely different. And I'll tell you how, because the jealousy came in when my fisherman said, I need to hire a deckhand, as he does. He was a spiny lobster fisherman in Santa Barbara, California. So he had 3 people he could choose from, possibly. As captains know, and as deckhands know, it's very hard to figure out who's going to work for you, how long, all those things. So I'm like, great, you have 3 people. And then he mentioned one woman, Emily. And I thought, okay, not even going to waste my time going down that rabbit hole, until he said, I'm going to hire her. And I thought, okay, this is where my insecurity as a woman comes in, and insecurity about my relationship comes in, because I started to feel threatened, and I started to feel this could possibly be the end of my relationship in a very, these are the thoughts. I'm just being honest. Like, this is how this comes up. And this is also, I've learned, a huge pain point with women in my community. And so I've learned, okay, no, first of all, so this is, let me tell you the full story. This is how it happened. So he said he was going to hire a female deckhand. I was like, okay, I'm fine with it. I was at my office. I was editor at a time at a local paper in Santa Barbara, California. I tell the publisher, my boss at the time, yeah, so my fisherman's going to hire a female. And he said, you should be worried about that. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm having a kumbaya moment right now. I'm working through this. And he's like, no, there's going to be a type of intimacy there that, not maybe physical, but an intimacy that you're going to miss out on. And so I would be worried if I were you. And I'm like, dude, don't go there. Like, please do not put this in my head. So I'm pushing that out of my head. I go to pick up my fisherman and Emily from the boat because they didn't have a car. They had driven the boat to a different harbor. So they need to be picked up. And so I go down to the boat to pick them up, and I see both of their sleeping bags next to each other in the bunk, in a very small bunk, because where else are you going to sleep? And then that's when it really kicked in, the insecurity that I had. And I was like, oh my God. Okay. So I drive them back. Everything's fine in the car. And then I just have this moment with my fisherman. I said, I just want to tell you that if you fall in love with her, I release you. Like, I don't want to feel any kind of way to hold you back. And he's looking at me like, are you nuts? Like, what are you talking about? And it was just this cycle of me going down this freaking rabbit hole, fueled by my publisher at the time, that I'm thinking, what? And it was terrible. So Mike Fisherman, I talked through it, and then I got to know Emily, and she taught me so much about what it's like to be a female fisherman. She couldn't have been nicer. This woman is just such a kind soul. And just then putting it in her perspective, I'm like, what is it like for her to be on a boat with a guy that she doesn't know, and a dangerous job, having to work her ass off, and probably having to prove herself over and over again. And God knows what female fishermen have to deal with when they're aboard a ship. And so that completely shifted my perspective on that feeling of not feeling, well, A, feeling insecure as a woman, then B, feeling insecure in my relationship, and C, like having this empathy and understanding from another woman's perspective of being on a boat, and just trying to see what that would feel like, and always wanting to support women no matter where they are. If they're on land, if they're at sea, they are our sisters. They are part of us. And so that is something that comes up actually in our community. I get emails still to this day, every summer around when Bristol Bay, people are going up to Alaska. I get emails saying, I'm really nervous because there's a female aboard. And I'm like, okay, well, we need to flip this narrative from this jealousy that we might have into how can we better support ourselves and to understand our own insecurities, talk to our fishermen about that, but also energetically, even if you don't even meet this woman, support another woman who's out there working her butt off. And so that's been a huge shift for me, has been, commercial fishing teaches a lot. And I think as partners, it's the emotional journey that we go on. It's not just worrying, it's our own, reflections of our own self, so like who we are inside, and reflections of our relationship. Do we truly trust the other person? Do they truly trust us? I mean, they're the ones that are out.
Hold on. So first of all, I would love to talk to Emily.
Yes.
That would be great. But flip that coin. When you leave your family and you're down in the lower 48, you've got Taco Bells, McDonald's, bars, restaurants, and you're leaving your spouse, whether that be male or female. You're leaving your partner.
Yep.
So your concern, being at home, there's a woman on the boat? Well, our concern in our minds, right? Because there's 50,000 men there in that city. She can go to a bar. She can go to, or he or she can go to a bar, a restaurant, a church, wherever they're going. They have the opportunity to meet a new person that could try to take an opportunity to take advantage of the fact that they're separated. So, when I first started going to Alaska, I experienced that a lot. Like I had high anxiety about my partner not being faithful to me.
Mm.
And that's difficult, especially when you're in the middle of the night and you've just worked, 18 hours. You're crawling in your bunk, you're going to bed, and that's what's on your mind. Because back when I started, there was no phone calls, there was no communication other than mail. So if they didn't mail you something, are they thinking of me?
Yeah.
Is it still here? And you're on a boat with how at the time that I started, it was a processing vessel. So there's 140 people on board, but every single one of them were men, all of them. There was not a woman on board. That they came later, which was great for the industry. Which women cannot work men. I'll tell you that right now on a boat. But that anxiety is you're surrounded by all men, and your partner is at home and can do everything that you cannot do. And believe me, your mind can play more games on you than anything else in the world. Your editor mentioning, oh, I wasn't sure I'd be comfortable with that. That was already in your mind. That's just someone else putting more into it. It's flaming the fire. But try sitting on a boat for 6 months at a time and not having communication, and all you've got is what's in your own head. How dark can your own head get? Pretty damn dark, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that perspective. Thank you for sharing that. I would love to know how you got started into the fishing industry. Like what made you want to jump on a processor? And when was that?
Okay, you're trying to dive into episode 200 of Galley Stories right now, but
I am. I know. I'm doing it.
I'll give this to you. So, precursor to that is I promised all my listeners that episode 200 will be about me and sharing my entire history. But if you listen to Galley Stories, you probably know my history. If you've listened to all the episodes, something comes out in everyone because you always got to share your story with their story or mention it. But I started in 1992, kind of a farm boy, right? And the perspective was that uh, I'm not kind of I am a farm boy raised in Nebraska, and at that time the farm couldn't support three generations. So the young generation has to go and make their money and then come back if that's what you choose to do or try to pursue. And so I had talked to who I call my grandfather about it, and 2 weeks later he says to me, "How do you want to make your money?" And at that time, remember, I'm just a young Nebraska farm kid, and if I walked by a mud puddle, I wanted to know what kind of fish were in it. I want to put bait in it. I wanted to pull something out of it. And I said, "Oh, I want to make money fishing. That's what I want to do." 2 weeks later, he had me all set up to go to Alaska, and so that's how that started. And when I went, I couldn't leave.
Love that. I love it. Love it. So I'm wondering how much more I can ask you because, journalist inside of me is like, I want to know more information. It's so good though. I mean, the thing about the parallels between farming and fishing, we farm the sea in a way, wildly farm the sea, if you will. And I would love to know what made you start, if you're open to sharing, or if you want to wait for 200 episode, I completely respect that. But what made you want to start the Galley Stories podcast? Whoop, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I got you. I got you.
Yep. So I started Galley Stories February, maybe 5 years ago. And it's because I went to visit my brother at Christmas. And so we're down there. My brother had just been retired from the Army, E8, Master Sergeant in the Army, many combat deployments. But he was broken, he had a lot of, he had two hip surgeries, three knee surgeries from jumping out of planes. Just the best man I know on the planet is my younger brother. And so we're sitting there at his kitchen table, and my grandfather's there. And my grandfather was never talked about his service at all. It just didn't come up. And we're sitting at this table and we're having a couple beers. And my grandfather never really saw him drink much, but he had a couple beers that night. And those two started talking about their deployments. And then my grandfather says, when I was shot down in Vietnam and I spent 2 years in a POW camp. Now, listen, I didn't know he was a pilot. I had no idea he was my grandfather, because the old timers didn't talk about that stuff. And well,
Wow.
they would talk about it just with the people that experienced it with them, not their families, not anybody else. So I'm listening to this story, and it's amazing. It's an amazing story, and it goes way deeper than that. But when I got back from Christmas, I'm thinking, every Friday I meet with a group of guys, fishermen, in a place called Market Arms. It's now completely gone. They knocked the building down in Ballard, Washington. It's where all the old time fishermen go. And we have a table there. They called it the Norwegian table. And every Friday at 3 o'clock, we would meet there, and there'd be eight or 10 of us sitting around this one table. And it was all the stories. And I thought, who's ever going to know their stories? Who's ever going to hear this at all? Are their children even going to hear it? Because their grandkids probably certainly aren't going to hear it, because I didn't. So that's when I said, I called a friend of mine. In fact, it's a much later episode. But the very first one I ever recorded, it was just me and a buddy. I said, let me try this. I want to hear your story. And I was amazed by it. And which encouraged me to do the next one, and the next one and the next one. And it's capturing those stories. An example, Bart Eaton, my mentor in fishing forever. I just went to his memorial service a couple weeks ago, passed away.
I'm sorry
And
for your loss.
yeah, it was bad. But all losses are bad, right? But so 3 episodes from Bart I had recorded, and hearing and being able to have access to go back and listen to his story is incredible. And so putting it down on tape, putting it down, putting it out in the world where somebody else can hear about it and experience it is huge, just like it is for you. I'm sure that you are, for lack of a better term, turned on every time you put on a new episode. It's like, or hyped up is probably the better way to explain it, Megan. But but every time you put a new one up, you're thinking, I hope that reaches people. I hope it touches someone. I hope that their story has shared. So we've had 5 people recorded on Galley Stories that have passed away. 110 episodes. 5 of those people are now gone. But you can go back and listen to their story at any point in time. And it's amazing to have that.
It is. And I think in your tagline, you say it's an oral history, correct? And which that is what you're recording. It's so true. And so beautiful to capture that. And yes, to preserve it. It really is preserving a culture, a literal culture that we get to experience that not a lot of people understand what the lifestyle is about. And it's so nice to be able to hear, as we both do, these different perspectives and to give people the understanding of what it takes to bring home that wild caught seafood and the incredible adventure that you can have if you choose to be a fisherman. It's really, really lovely. And you spoke of, is it Bart, B-A-R-T, who passed away?
Yeah,
Okay.
Barteaton.
Okay. Bart, may he rest. I would love to know, he seemed like that was a very special and important interview for you, and interviews that you've had. What has been another maybe most memorable interview, or people that you've connected with that you can think of off the top of your head?
I would say Tor Tullison. He was pretty early on. It might have been episode 3 or 5, right? Pretty really early on. In fact, I'm going to look it up right now for you. Uh,
Yes.
he was episode 4. So what I loved about Tor was he's the exact reason this podcast is created. This is a young man coming from Norway at 16 and a half, 17 years of age. His grandmother has to give him $100 voucher to be able to get him back to Norway in case he gets in trouble. So he has to have an issued voucher of $100 so that the United States can send him back if he messed up anyway. And so his first night on a boat, his first night on a boat, he's on a boat that a lot of my listeners know. It's called the Viking Queen. It's a tender up in Alaska. Uh, old time crabber. And but at that time it was a scallop boat in North Carolina. So he comes from Norway. He gets into New York or somewhere like that, takes a bus down for $3, stays in a $2 hotel room. This is years ago, mind you. This isn't anytime recent. But um, his first night on the boat, he goes up into the wheelhouse and he's listening to his uncle, which is Kari Ness, who anybody that knows Alaska knows Kari Ness, or at least the name Ness for sure, because it's three generations of incredible fishermen and people. But he goes up and he's the nephew of the captain, right? So he's up in the wheelhouse listening. He's trying to, this is a great experience for a young kid. And Kari is talking to his sister boat because at that time, not a lot of radios, not a lot of radar. You had just real close communication via radio. So you'd go out with another boat in case you got in trouble. Well, it was out with a boat called the Snoopy. And so it's the Viking Queen and the Snoopy. And the Snoopy captain tells Kari, the captain of the Viking Queen, hey, we just pulled up a torpedo. I'm going to go look at this. And then the boat exploded. And this is Tor Tollesen's first night on the water. And so they spent that night saving 3 people who survived and then unfortunately getting parts of people. And the reason the 3 people survived is it was so hot, they were sleeping on top of the wheelhouse and not in their bunks. So when the explosion happened, it actually threw them off of the vessel. And the best part about this is when I got done talking to Tor, I Googled it. It's all there. It's all in print. It's all factual and actual. And that's not even his best story. That's not even the most critical thing he went through. So I would say Tor is probably if I had to if someone asked me, give me an episode that shows what Galley Stories is about, it would be episode 4, Tor Tollesen. And he's got that thick Norwegian accent, which to me I find just amazing, but he chose a different career. He had some bad experiences at sea and he went a different way, but the experiences he had at sea, I think, helped a lot of people.
Wow, that is mind blowing. And just the opportunity for different types of experiences to happen aboard. Who would have thought a torpedo? Any partner listening to this, do not think that there's going to be a torpedo that your fisherman catches.
Well,
I just want that to be
no,
there.
they were fishing down. So we have several munition dumps from World War II in the United States, some on the East Coast, some on the West Coast. When it was determined that we no longer needed that equipment, it was no longer the most current equipment, but they didn't disarm them. They just picked an area of the ocean and put them all there, dropped them all down there. That's where they went. And a torpedo, obviously, you ever dropped a stick in, a heavy stick in the water and it just kind of swirls around a bit and then goes a different direction. So you don't know that it's going to land inside of that munitions dump. You think it is. And that's what happened in that case is they were not pulling scallops up out of the munition dump. They were just close enough to it that they happened to pull one up. But yeah.
Wow.
What about your favorite episode, Megan, on your podcast?
Oh my gosh. This is actually, it kind of ties in with your story. Actually, my most memorable interview, there's been so many. Let me preface that. Anytime I talk to a partner of a commercial fisherman, I love it because it's just so many differences, yet so many similarities of what we go through, no matter where we are in the world. We've on the podcast, we also, we talk about safety and finances and mental health and maintaining relationship connections and the environment and ways that fishermen are able to sustain healthy fishing grounds. So we have a wide range that we get down and dirty in. But the most memorable guest that I had was with Tammy Roberts of Massachusetts, who shared what it's like to lose your fisherman at sea. And Tammy was so courageous and so open and just so loving, the way that she talked about her her husband's vessel capsized 7 years ago. And she shared about her experience with grief and how she found support and the incredible work that she and this attorney, Michael Flynn, has done to create a foundation called the Seaworthy Foundation to ensure that all vessels are safe for fishermen. And so it was
what episode number is that? Just so our
that's a
listeners can
great
be, let's
question.
let's Google that, Megan. Let's go.
Google it. This is live Googling. It's happening right now.
Well, I think it's important that your
it
listeners
is.
and mine can
Yeah.
go back. If the episode that you find to be your link or your anchor, maybe my listeners, maybe your listeners find it too.
I would love that. And we can, I'll put it in the show notes and share that as well. So as this pops up, it's going to take a second, but, yes, this episode was really powerful. And it was interesting because I found Tammy through my Instagram. It's at Megan.Waldrep. And she had written, I don't know what I think I posted a reel about having a little travel altar for my fisherman, which I did at one summer. It was actually right after we got married and he went off to Bristol Bay. And for some reason that summer was the hardest to me because I think because we just got married and I just felt really sad. Usually I was thriving. I'd go hang out with my friends and, living the solo life was great. But that was particularly hard for me. And so what I did is I'm a spiritual person and I brought a little candle. I brought a little picture of him and I would light it every time I would practice yoga every morning. So even if I was at my friend's house at their guest room, I would have this little altar that was just a little, like, it made me feel closer to him. And so I posted about that on my Instagram account and Tammy had DM'd me and said, I lost my fisherman at sea. And the fact that she was even open to message me I was completely honored and touched by that. And I don't know, for some reason, I thought, I want to ask her to be on the podcast. And and then the other side of me is going, is this too forward? I don't know. And I thought, well, I'm just going to shoot. Let's see what happens. I'm obviously respectfully asking. She said, absolutely. I'd love to share. I also have this foundation about keeping fishermen safe. And I thought, this is what a great way that we can help each other and to really support each other and be there for each other. And so I really, truly appreciate Tammy and we still keep in touch to this day. And I'm still looking up her episodes. Let's see. Processing the death. Yes, I have it. I don't think I have the number, but I'll put it in the show notes. How about that? It was in the first season though. I'm looking on YouTube. We're on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. I'm sure you're on like a million different platforms.
So YouTube, mine's just like a recording, right? I don't have any video. I'm sure you do. YouTube's not a big outlet for me. Instagram, I'm on Instagram. I'm terrible at social media. First of all, Megan, terrible. I don't post enough. When I'm in Alaska, I post a lot. When I'm not in Alaska, there's only so many pictures of my dog I can take. Well, more realistically, I try to keep all those posts more about the podcast, right? So it's got to be a boat or it's got to be water. So I don't do a lot of those posts. I think the biggest one for me is Spotify is my biggest listener base. Apple will be second, FM radio. And I'm certain you are too. You can find both of our podcasts on almost any outlet for how you want to listen.
Yes. Accessibility is key. And thank you for making me look this up. She was at episode 16 on season 1. So yeah, she was an early one.
What's with the seasons? What are you doing?
My season, I just say season 1, really, it's just the year. So I've been doing this for almost 2 years now. I'm at around 90 something episodes. And yeah, I just say season because it helps me know what year I started. This is the first year, is the first season. The second year is the second season. But I know people do it in all kinds of different ways. You can batch episodes and that's one season. You can have several in a year. I don't know.
I would have missed 2 seasons for COVID. During COVID, I could not record any. All of my interviews have been in person. None of them have been over. Right now we're on Zoom.
Yes, and I'm honored that this is your first Zoom interview, by the way, everyone.
Well, it might actually help me a lot, Megan. It may teach me to reach out and expand more without spending thousands of dollars on flights, which is how I've gotten many interviews. So that might be good. But
that's fun though, that you get to travel like that. What is your process like when you're seeking different people to interview? Tell us from the beginning. Are people reaching out? Are you reaching out?
I almost never have to seek. It's all you should interview and you should interview. And those ones that suggest someone for me to interview, I love doing those. It's the ones that reach out and say, you should interview me that scare me. It's like, oh, I want to let me come on, be on the show. And a couple of those have been really significant maritime events that have wanted to be on the show. But I have not done them just because of the approach. It's more about them versus their one aggressively, as an example, wants to the vessel sank, people died, and he wants to blame the captain, and he wants to continually blame the captain. And I just can't support that. I want a person's life story, their life story. And as part of being a podcaster, right, is you got to find your niche and you got to stay in it. People approach me and say, I've had 4 people that have overdosed on narcotics, and I've had people approach and say, "Hey, I would love it if you did an episode on narcotics." Well, I can't. It's not my forum. My forum, I can give you other people to talk to, and that's you can cover that, but you got to stay true to your source, right? And my source is the oral capture of maritime history of an individual. So to stray outside of that, I'm doing an injustice to my listeners. They're listening because they want to hear that. They want to hear Megan Waldrep's story. They want to hear your story. How did it start? And again, separately beyond this, Megan, I'd love to get your partner story, right? And when I say that, I mean interview you about being the spouse of a commercial fisherman and only focus on that, because we're kind of going a broad range of things here right now. If we did an episode that was focused on that, I would love to do it.
I'm here for it. I'm here to help share that story anytime. And I appreciate that, how you stay within that focus that you have. And I'm wondering, through your interviews, even though it might not be solely on addiction or things like that, which we do cover in the Partners of Commercial Fishermen, because addiction is such a huge part of the industry. I also have had struggles with addiction. I no longer drink. I talk about my sobriety story and on the podcast, and I've had other people talk about theirs too. I'm wondering, in your interviews, when you're sharing the history of their lives at sea, do stories about addiction come up? Do stories about mental health or any kind of struggles in that way come up? Or do the stories focus on more of like finding a torpedo, like these insane, incredible, like really dangerous possible events that have happened? What kind of conversations are surrounding that? Like personally, I guess.
In our industry, addiction's a big thing.
Yep.
Whether that be alcohol, drugs, even the sea can be addictive. It can be, because some people find solace and peace at being on the water that they cannot find at home. Addiction's okay. To be a commercial fisherman, you have to be you have to be an addictive personality. You're already that person. You probably realize that in your partner. He wants to be on the here. I don't know. I don't even know if your partner's a male or female, Megan.
He's a male.
Yep. Well, so he wants to be on the water. He wants to be doing that. He wants to be doing God's work, as it were, feeding the world. And there's something he gets out of that you or I or no one else on the planet could give him. You could try, but he's getting something out of that no one else can give him, whether it's adrenaline from it, not knowing what's coming up, which is the thing I find most romantic about fishing, is you don't know what's going to come up. And I'm still here. I'm
Okay.
just pausing. It's romantic, right? But you don't know what you're going to find. I didn't answer that question, did I?
No, that's okay. This is leading into another one, which if you're open to sharing.
Mm.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking you're going to all episode 200 on me, so you might have to be the one that does the interview.
Yes.
Uh,
This makes me feel so good. I swear, I'm just generally curious and would love to know more about you. I'm really not trying to sabotage it, but I am here to facilitate if that is
you know,
something that you're open to.
one of the real reasons I try to hold off and not tell my story,
Yeah.
Megan, is because I don't have the same story as everybody else, right? I don't have the same romantic history, the struggle, and I've had plenty of those, but they're separate. They're not as combined as one person's entire life at sea. My entire life has not been at sea. I'm broken up in that, you know. Um, so one of my struggles is, my episode's not going to be anything amazing. I've spent 15 years on the ocean, but I've spent equally 30, well, 20, 22 years on land, but still in the commercial fishing industry. You know what I mean? It's not as attractive. But that's
I
where I'm
don't
at.
agree with that. I have to say, like, I feel like you have what you have is extremely interesting and it's an entirely different perspective. And no matter what our stories are, they are definitely valuable to the people that are listening. People love you. I mean, you're such an incredible calming presence, whether it's through the podcast or if it's in person. And so knowing more about you is valuable no matter what. And I feel that there's so many similarities between experiences at life at land and at sea that the way that you're even able to connect with your audience and the people that you interview is because you have that common thread there that might not be apparent, but it is. I mean, the fact that you have that passion and that curiosity says a lot about you. And the fact that you want to put others first and to share and kind of stay in the background. I'm like, let's shine a light on Mark, man. Like that's what I'm saying. I feel like the people want to hear when you're ready to share about you. And I feel that your life is more interesting than you would ever really truly understand or realize. So I know people would be excited for that. And honestly, this buildup is like, now we really want to know. Okay. So now we have to know what's up with Mark. I mean, 15 years at sea, by the way, is not nothing. That's 15 years. That's almost a whole human being growing up and learning to drive. Okay. So that's a lifetime within itself. So I just want to share that. And may I ask questions or should we wait? It's up to you because I could keep going.
Let me ask you one.
Okay.
How long have you had your partner, and what's the biggest struggle been for you? The
Oh,
biggest struggle over all that time?
oh man, this is so good. We met almost 10 years ago and we met in my office when I was editor at the paper and he walked in and said, "Are you Megan?" And I turned around, I'm like, gave him the once over and I said, "Yes, I am Megan. Who are you?" And so we long distance dated for about 9 months. And that was okay for me. Sometimes that long distance can be a struggle, but at that time it was fine because we were getting to know each other. And so it was nice. And it also kind of prepped me for being with a fisherman. And so, to be honest, what has been the most challenging has changed every single year. It's different every single year. So that first year was when he said, "I'm going to Bristol Bay." So I was in California. He was in Washington. He was down visiting me 1 month. He said, "So I'm going to be gone all summer. I'm going to be in Bristol Bay fishing salmon." I'm like, "Wait, hold on. What? You're going who? Where?" And I'm thinking, I've seen you every month for 9 months, and that's been fine. But you're about to be gone for 3 months. I'm 33 years old. I'm in California, and it's about to be summertime. Do you realize the sacrifices that I'm making for this relationship? And then I had to flip the script and say, "Megan, do I realize the sacrifices I'm making in this relationship?" And so that's when I turned to Google and I Googled how to date a commercial fisherman. And that's how this whole community started, was because I was like, wait, this is a hard challenge for me. It was that distance was hard to say, oh, this isn't just a normal relationship. This is a different type of commitment here. And that's when the starting to bubble up of the trust of between each other that we just discussed earlier. Also, the insecurities that arise, for myself and for my relationship. And so that was the beginning of that. That was one of the main challenges. I think whenever we started to get more serious and realize that, okay, yes, I'm going to be with this person, then there's of course financial. That's a huge one. Huge pain point is managing finances. And what does that look like every season? If it's going to be a great season at Bristol Bay and we lived on a sailboat, a 32-foot sailboat. And so,
whoa, hold on. How long?
For 2 years, we lived on the boat. Actually, for 3 years. We've lived in the boat for 9 months in Bellingham, Washington, in the harbor, because I thought we were going to go to Mexico that year. And this was after a full year of dating.
You were taking the boat to Mexico?
Yes. Well, at the beginning we wanted to sail it around the world, but we're like, let's just get to Mexico. I was like, all right, am I going to actually move on?
Did I just hear somebody in your background?
Oh, I just snapped my fingers. Oh. I was getting very animated, but I appreciate it.
I thought I just heard him say, yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I'm in North Carolina and he's in California. That's a fast forward to the challenges of now 10 years later. But the beginning was, after Bristol Bay, Alaska, the finances. This is a sub story of the finances. He had a great season and he had mentioned to me before, because as an editor at the time, I was enjoying my job, but then I started to not, because it really became about ad sales and less about writing. And I was questioning my life as a writer and like, what does this mean? And he said, well, if I do well in Bristol Bay, why don't we just get on the boat and get the fuck out of here? Like, I've always wanted to go sailing. And I'm like, hold on, you're asking me to move in with you. Like, let's back up real quick. Are you sure this is the step you want to take? And do I want to take this step? And so, I said, okay, go to Bristol Bay. I'm going to go to Big Sur for 5 days and basically meditate in the woods and see if this is something I want to do. Am I really going to risk it for love? I had been a writer in California for 3 years. Is this the time? So he said, yeah, we got a great season. Let's go. And I thought, I think I'm ready. The job was not my passion anymore. And I wanted to find out who I was as a writer. And so I thought, what's better than to get on a boat with my fisherman and figure it out? So I moved up to Washington. That was a huge transition. And then we're getting the boat ready. And then apparently we didn't get the boat ready in time because there's a weather window.
You never do.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, exactly. So many people out there going, yeah, of course. And I think probably people understand too, up in Washington, there's a weather window that you can leave to get to weather where you're not, I don't know, almost dying at sea to get out of there because there's so many storms coming in from Japan. This is what I learned. So it was like October or late September, October. And I'm like, all right, I went to what is the name of there's a big fishing store. It has a bunch of charts. It's in Seattle. It's like a famous place. Fisherman's, anyway, I was down there. I had to go get charts. We were so unprepared. And I'm almost to the place and he goes, we missed the weather window. There's typhoons or whatever he was saying. There's storms coming off of Japan and we're not going to be able to leave until next year. And I'm like, okay, I just left California. We're living on a boat in Bellingham for the winter. And I also, side story too, went to the barber shop the day before and said, chop it off. Like had this moment of, I'm going to cut my hair. And it was the worst effing haircut of my entire life. I didn't even know who I was. Like it was like spiral. So that living on that boat in a harbor in Bellingham at the point it was during the worst winter they had had in 10 years. That was the most challenging time for me. I loved being on the boat physically because that felt like a cocoon, but I didn't know who the hell I was. I was writing, I had one column that I was writing, so I still kind of had an outlet, but I wasn't the editor anymore. My hair looked like shit. Like I'm in this relationship with this guy who was like, well, we're not going. That's okay. I'm just going to pick up and get a job with, building boats or whatever. There's so many different avenues that I feel like fishermen can take if they know people. They can start working on electronics, whatever. And I'm like, now I don't have a job. And now I'm going into a spiral of depression that I had never known. And so that challenge for me was, I can't believe Chris and I made it through that depression period, to be honest with you. I'd never been in the Pacific Northwest during a winter time, on compounded on top of the fact that I was at a crisis, an emotional, identity crisis at that point. And so the fact that we even remained together was the biggest hurdle I feel that we've gone through. And he went to Bristol Bay that summer. I came back to the South, and then we met up after Bristol Bay. And I remember him saying, all right, I'm like, let's get the boat. I'm going to have the calendar all printed out. Like, we're going to make sure these projects are done. He's like, oh, if we don't make it, we could just stay here another year. And I just looked at him and I said, I'm not staying here another year on the boat. And he just looked at me and it's like, got it. Okay. So that's when my type A came in. I said, how long is it going to take for you to do these projects? Oh, this will take me 2 days. I was like, great. We're going to factor in 4 days. How long is it going to take you to do this? 3 days. All right. We're going to say this
Oh
one's
my
going to
God,
take a
Megan,
week.
you're sounding like my wife right now.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes. It takes a team. That's so funny. My heart. Yes. Shout out to your wife and every other person listening.
Well,
going,
we lived on a boat in Ballard for
nice.
10 years.
Wait, what kind of boat?
1968 Tolly Discover 50 foot.
Oh my gosh, that's a yacht. That's
It's
gorgeous.
a yacht. Yeah, she was gorgeous. Yeah. 3 staterooms and
Wow.
when we had first got together, she was a roommate. Like she, just a really, really good friend, which made our relationship better.
Yeah.
We there was nothing other than friendship involved. And she was renting a room in the house that I stayed in as well. And we just really good friends. And then when we decided to become a couple, we thought we'd move out. And she's like, "Where do you want to live?" And I'm always drawn to the water. I got to have water. So I said, "On a boat," and that's where we went. So we bought this 1968 Tollycraft Discover 50 foot, 52
What was the
overall.
name? Wait, what was the name?
Gale.
Oh, nice.
Which, if you listen to the earlier episodes, they're all recorded on the Gale, all of them,
Oh,
which is galley stories, right? All in the
got it.
galley, or so that's where all the early episodes were recorded. We lived there 10 years or so. We sold it 5 years ago and moved to Camino, which is way
Wow.
better.
What, like having indoor plumbing that is
A
and
bathtub.
washer and dryer? I know, right?
Bathtub. For me, bathtub is the
Oh, I
big
love
thing.
it.
In fact, the very first project we did when we bought the house was rip out the bathroom and put it in a jetted tub, because
Heck
I like
yeah.
that. I like those bubbles going everywhere where you don't even see.
I like your style, Mark.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. You lived on a boat for 10 years. Did y'all get to travel on the boat? Was
We
it
did.
stationary?
Yep.
Oh, good.
It
Where'd
was
y'all
not
go?
mainly just day cruises. We weren't, I'm gone a lot, and
Mhm.
it's much like flying, right? When you're out of operations and you're not captaining a boat or you're not captaining a plane for a while, you lose the ability to do it as well as you think you can, or at least I feel like that. You've got to practice it. So most of our trips were day trips. We of course we obviously went up to the islands, but it takes a lot to do that. You got to plot your courses. A captain of a boat, a captain of a plane, you've got to know where you're going, what the weather is, what the tides are, what's pulling you, and you got to plan everything out because everybody on board is expecting you to do that, right? Or
Yeah.
or at least having confidence that you can and will do that. You don't just jump into a boat and go, "Oh, we're going to go to Canada today." Well, what's the weather? What's the tides? It matters a lot. Fuel consumption, even a basic thing. But if you're going against the tide, you're going to use a lot of fuel. And if the tide's too low, are you going to hit the bottom? Going across a place like Desolation Sound, right? You've got to take all that into account. So to be the captain of a vessel, whether that be on the water or in the air or even in your car, you got to know if you can handle it. Right now we've had a lot of wind and storms in the Pacific Northwest, a lot of snow. Can your car handle it? I mean, you've got to think about that.
Yes. Yes. And how nice. I didn't realize how spoiled we were to be able to travel to those islands in the San Juan Islands and around Canada. It's so cool. The day sails are very adventurous within their own. Like there's so many places to go discover. It's so cool.
Well, the problem with having a boat is everybody wants to be on your boat,
That's
right?
true.
Oh yeah, well, can we go with you on Saturday, right? And
Yeah.
then you get 15 people on your boat, and you know, three of them don't know how to clean them up themselves.
Yeah. That's funny. Actually, we never really had that problem I didn't know anyone, first of all, when we were in Washington, when we knew people. And then we sailed to Mexico and well, we would hop down the coast, but
So
we were
wait,
with,
you did this sail? You
we
did it?
did. So second year when me, like your wife got the calendar out and said, how long is this going to take? We freaking took off and we sailed. I remember going down the Strait of Juan de Fuca. It was a gorgeous day. And there was one, what is Nanaimo? Is that the last harbor before you, anyway, I know that might be in Canada. I'm sorry, guys. This is whoever's out there is like, oh, wow, this woman with her navigation, but you're going down the Strait of Juan de Fuca and there's one last harbor that you can take. And I was like, no, what a beautiful day. Let's just go for it. And Chris is like, okay, cool, let's go. And so I call it taking the left. You take a left out of America and go into the Pacific Ocean and you're taking a left. And I remember thinking like, wow, we're doing it. And then I couldn't even turn around because I knew the only other land that was nearby behind me was Japan. And that freaked me out. And I was thinking, I can't turn around. I cannot believe that Japan is there. And here we are as a cork floating in the middle of the ocean. Granted, we've sailed about 20 miles offshore. I could see the shore at all time. However, you can't just pull over when there's bad weather. You have to like keep going. There's lots of rocky shores and things like that. So yeah, we took that left and I remember thinking this is great. And then he looks at me, he goes, okay, so you take the first watch. I'm going to sleep for 3 hours and then I'll come back. I was like, wait, this is starting now? Wait, what do you mean? Wait, I'm doing this now? Oh my God. And so then, yeah, it was game on. Like I remember sitting there, not looking at Japan because I was so scared, but then watching the moon rise over the mountains and just thinking, oh my God, this is so incredible. The stars are out. And so we harbor hopped all the way down Washington, Oregon, and then California. And then, yeah, we got to Mexico, sailed all the way down Baja, up through the Sea of Cortez. And then the next season, after he went to Bristol Bay, came back, had the boat in, I forgot, San Carlos, I think, is where on the mainland side. And then we traveled down the mainland all the way down to Puerto Vallarta. And yeah, and then we sold the boat in Mazatlan. We turned around and came back to Mazatlan and sold the boat. And I was devastated. I was crying the entire trip from Puerto Vallarta to Mazatlan because as you know, boats they're people. They're part of your soul. They keep you alive. They were your home. I mean, man, I wanted to say like congratulations on selling your boat because one of my biggest fears was that our boat would just be dry docked and just rusting and drying out like all the other ones.
I still have friends that drive by the Gale and take
Yeah.
pictures of her and send them to me.
Oh,
But that moment when you were turned over to wheel watch, essentially, and he went to sleep,
yep.
every person on a boat experiences that moment
Yeah.
where this is, hey, get up here and get in the chair, right? And really, you're just looking for stuff, right? Making sure you're not going to hit
Exactly.
anything, but it's terrifying that first time. That's your responsibility. So you have 1/4 of the captain's weight on your shoulder, right?
Yeah.
1/4 of it. Like just drive the boat for a little bit. Don't hit anything. Look for things floating in the water.
Yep. Look
It's
for fishing
terrifying
buoys.
though. It's terrifying.
Terrifying. Yeah. I just remember like, wait, what are you talking about? This is happening now. You trust me enough to go to sleep. And then that whole schedule. I mean, now I'm starting to realize like what you're paralleling right now. Yeah, I guess I did kind of understand what it's like to take over the helm. And then also to understand what sleeping patterns. Then it becomes like you're watching a child. You go to sleep for 3 hours, then I'll go to sleep for 3 hours, or quote unquote sleep, right? And then you hit crazy weather and you're thinking, are we gonna is the boat gonna break apart? That moment happened once, twice with us. And I was like, where I remember Chris said, okay, you can lay down, but keep your boots on. And that freaked me out. I was like, oh my God, I have to keep my PFD and my boots on right now at 1 a.m. while we're slapping against the waves. Like it was this, apparently there was I forgot what they call it. It's not a tornado, but it's kind of a tornado that just kind of comes out of nowhere. Anyway, this happened in Santa Barbara and it hit us when we were at Point Arena. And I was terrified. I remember just sailing along. Everything was great. It was my watch. I was coming after the end of my watch. And then the weather started to shift. And I thought, wow, the wind's really getting more fierce. And then the waves are starting to get choppy. And then I was like, oh, Chris, it's time for it's your turn. Bye. I'm glad I don't have to deal with this. I'm going to go to sleep. Oh, hell no. It felt like the whole bow of the boat was in the air and would just slam down on every single wave for 3 freaking hours. I was terrified. And that's when faith comes in, right? And I practiced many different spiritual modalities. And at the time, big into meditation. Well, I still am. And I thought, okay, I'm going to find my Zen within and everything's going to be fine. Just getting to that meditation zone. And then after like a few minutes, I thought, Jesus, take the wheel. Please get us out of here alive. I was terrified. And then I remember he came to me afterwards, after 3 hours, and it finally calmed down. He said, okay, it's your turn. I was like, hell no, I need at least another hour just to get my heart rate down. And then we can move on with our life. But that was terrifying. Like the ocean, you are definitely at the mercy of the ocean, and Mother Nature ain't no joke. Like definitely respect for the sea always. That one of the stories that I have that made me realize, oh yeah, you literally have to go with the flow here and just trust in whatever it is that you're going to get through it. It was intense.
Now take that times 10 in Bristol Bay for Chris.
Right. Or even the crabbers in the Bering Sea. I see those videos, Landon Cheney videos that he posts on Instagram. I get nauseous. It's so intense. And then watching them get those huge mallets and get the ice off of the side of the boat. Superheroes.
So Landon is one of my best interviews too.
Yes.
Listen to his. He's so educated, so articulate, smart young man, communicates so well. Encourage anybody listening to listen to that one.
Yes.
But so humble too. So humble, which you don't find too much today.
So true. And actually, I wanted to bring up the Landon interview because I met Landon right after I met you at your booth. And Landon was there, so kind, just like the sweetest person. And I told on Instagram, I said, as a happily married woman, I'll say he's even better looking in person. But he was just such a nice guy. Like you said, super humble.
I thought he was good looking too.
Right? Okay, thank you. He's a universally great looking person. And I listened to his interview after you published it. I think I was driving to the airport in Seattle actually, and I was listening to it. And man, you're right. His story, so incredible. And just the tenacity and the grit, and also talking about addiction. He was open to talking about addiction. And I really appreciate that.
He's recovering, right?
Yeah.
So, and he, as he states, he will always be recovering.
Yes, I love that. And he shares it so openly and just talks about
his mentor was Matt Bradley, which for Daily Catch guys know him as on the Northwestern. That's his sponsor. Nick McGlashan, I don't know if you remember Nick, but Nick was Landon's first sponsor, and Nick passed away.
That's right.
Yep.
May he rest.
Yeah. May they all rest. But yeah. So that was a hard day for sure. But then Matt picked up Landon after that. You gotta have a sponsor, right? You gotta have somebody you could talk to. Whether that's addiction or being away from your family or every angle of your life, there's someone in your life you can talk to. whether that's about being away from your spouse. What you follow me here, Megan, right?
Absolutely. I agree with this so much. And that's actually, side note, with the Partners of Commercial Fishermen community, we have a private group chat that women can jump on, and we have connections from all over the world, and we talk about all kinds of stuff. And that's one of them is when their partners are away, we are a support system for them, and they're able to get real time.
What about the men that are separated from their fishing wives?
I think that's great if they want to share their stories. My community is mainly for women because these are the people that reach out to me, and these are the ones that seek help. I've actually reached out to partners who are men, and I want to ask them about their experiences, but the people that I've spoken with are not very open about maybe their feelings as women can be. So, and also I feel that early on, I talked to my community about this too. I said, what about bringing fishermen into our group? And there was a unanimous conversation there that said, yes, we can see that, but also we would just rather have a place just for us because we feel more comfortable talking about how we truly are, what we're truly going through, just talking to another woman. And I thought, okay, well, the community has spoken in that way. However, I would love to hear if any fisherman wants to come on the podcast to talk about it. I would love to hear about their experiences because
let's get the other side, Megan.
Yeah,
there are plenty of women who've made their money on the water. Plenty,
mm-hmm.
very, very well. In fact, I said it earlier. I think women work harder than men on the ocean, and I truly, truly believe that. There are many amazing women captains out there running boats. Many. And they hire women crew though.
Love that.
But all of those folks have spouses or partners.
Yeah, they do. They do. And I'd love to hear their stories if they would love to come and share, because like I said, I've reached out before, but the men don't feel like they are as open to that. And also I do have women. It's not just partners of fishermen. They're partners of fishermen, but they're also fishing with their partners. So they're also fishermen. They're also female fishermen, if you will. So yeah, there's such a complex, very specialized way that we can support each other. And I'd love to learn how fishermen are able to support each other aboard too. And there was actually a panel at the Pacific Marine Expo talking about that, about ways of mental health and fishing and how to
I think I saw you up there.
Oh, that was a different panel, but thank you for watching that panel. I've done two, and they've been great ways to connect. There was the mental health one was with Tav Amu, who I think many people might recognize. I think he's with Sea Grant, if I have that correct, in Alaska. And he spoke about mental health and what it's like aboard, and just being able to notice signs with your crewmates to see, is this person maybe not as talkative as they were? What are their motor skills like? Are they too tired? Like, how to check in with people to make sure that they're getting enough support in the sense of, do you need to go take a nap? Do you need to eat some food? Like, what can we do to help our fishermen aboard a boat? What can we do to help our fishermen off of the boat? I feel like partners, we're many things, including counselors and personal assistants and, all the things, cooks, bookkeepers, deckhands, and yard. We help with the yard work too. And the list goes on. And absolutely. Fishermen, if you would love to share what it's like for you, or if non-fishermen, partners of female fishermen, I'd love to hear your story. Please. Open mic for sure. How have you
give them your address?
My address that I'll leave.
Your email address.
Okay. I was like, should I do that off of the podcast?
No, your email address. Come on.
Okay. My email address is support@pocfpride.com. So it's, Partners of Commercial Fishermen, POCF, then pride.com. And also the website is pocfpride.com as well, where they can find the blog, they can find the podcast, they can find ways to join the community. And if, fishermen, if you want to have support for your partners when you're gone, sign them up for our private community. That would be a great way to show support even when you're not there, because we can be there for them. So, and what are ways people can connect with you, Mark?
I think my numbers on the yellow pages, you just flip through them.
They still have those?
I'm old, Megan. I'm old.
You're not that old though. You're not.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
Hey, I was born in the 1900s too. Okay, so I'm just saying, like, you're speaking to.
Okay, all right. We're gonna culp it into a 100-year block. So
Exactly.
galleystories@gmail.com is the best way.
Okay.
Instagram, if I posted more, I'm sure more will be interested, but I don't. But follow there. And then galleystories.net. Net, not com, because net, we're fishing.
Ah, yes. I love that. That's great. What do you have coming up with Galley Stories, may I ask? Hope, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, yep, I got you.
Yep, starting March 1st, which this episode will release after that, will be my new sponsorship with Extra Tough, which I'm excited about.
Congrats.
So I got Alaska Brewing and Extra Tough. You could all we need now is an airplane. You got the boots, you got the beer. You just need to get there.
Wait, can we? Okay, continue.
Go
I
ahead.
have one.
No,
okay,
go
I have
ahead.
a question about the airplane. Can we talk about this? Do people know that you are a pilot? Do you talk about this?
I'm not a pilot.
Oh, you're not, but you fly.
I'm working towards my private pilot
Okay.
license.
Do people know this on your podcast? Do you talk about that?
No, it's not. The podcast is not about me.
Okay, I know. I hear you. You're on brand. I get it. I think it's really cool though that you're working towards to becoming a pilot. You fly a plane. You're essentially flying a vessel in the air. And like you said before, how many parallels there are. That is really such a cool part of your story that we can't wait to hear on episode 200. So just throwing that out there.
I think you might be the interviewer.
Oh, please, you've heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. I would be so honored to interview you. You would be one of my favorite interviews because this has been so freaking nice talking to you. I feel like we are just hanging out. And I know that's how everybody who talks to you feels anyway. So this has been so fun. I really, really appreciate your time, Mark.
I appreciate yours, Megan.
Awesome.
Like
Yay.
you were awesome.
Oh, we see each other. Thank you. You're awesome. This is just, we're just going to talk about how awesome each other are for the rest of this.
All right, let me tell you the 10 ways that Megan is awesome, guys.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'm going to write a blog post. 10 things to know about Mark Kaler and why he's awesome. So that's coming up next.
All right, listen, guys, I would encourage you to listen to her podcast. I last night I binged like 10 episodes.
Oh,
they were amazing.
Thank you.
Well, I had to prep a little bit for this, right?
It's because you're a pro.
No, not even close. Not even close. But listen to it. There's other sides to our stories, right? And we don't carry them alone. Our partners carry the other side. So hearing that is important. But the support she's giving us is also important.
I appreciate that so much. And I echo that. Galley stories, y'all. To all my listeners, that's the way that we can truly understand what it's like to be a commercial fisherman in so many different perspectives. We might only hear one side of the story through our fishermen because maybe they're almost too afraid to tell us the full side of the story. So to be able to empathize, this would be a great way, a great avenue is Galley stories. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I'd just say your fisherman will never share everything on his mind, ever. It will stay in his mind. And it's like an onion, right? Peel it back, or a walnut, crack it open. But even then, you will never get to the center of it.
The human experience. So true. That's like, what you thinking? So if we want to know what you're thinking, we can listen to each other's podcasts. That's how we help each other understand those perspectives.
I think my listeners would love to hear your podcast, Megan.
Oh,
I do.
I would be
It's the other side
honored.
of it.
Yeah. Yeah. A little taste. I would be honored to have anybody come and listen. And I encourage others to listen to Galley stories because one of the best parts about being a fisherman's wife and a partner are the moments that you get to sit around a table after they're talking about boat engines, of course, but then those stories that you can hear. And yes, I realize that camaraderie is important. That is their support system. But the stories that you hear, I mean, this is a part of a legacy that has been around for centuries since, as I say, the dawn of civilization. Since the dawn of the economic civilization, there has been fishermen and there have been partners of fishermen working hard.
Since Jesus taught the first man to fish.
Yeah, since pre-Jesus. We're talking BC. We're talking back in the day. Yes, there was a team there, most likely a partnership. One was doing the labor of bringing in the fish, and the other one was figuring out how they were going to be able to support their family and make a living. And so the fact that we are all here today, sharing our own stories, and a part of this incredible experience, we are carrying on that legacy that is the tie that binds forever. And so what could you ask for more than that? I mean, it's how incredibly special that we all get to share that with one another. And sharing this time with you, Mark, has been incredibly special. So I truly, truly appreciate you.
Yeah, I think you're awesome, Megan.
Same.
You take the finishing words.
Okay. Thank you all for listening. Thank you so much, Mark, for being here. And on behalf of Galley Stories and the Partners of Commercial Fishermen, we truly appreciate every single person who takes the time to tune into our podcast, to share in our love and our passion with our communities. And we appreciate you and value more than you'll ever know. So thank you all for being here.